Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the John Gaunt podcast. Today, the big question, Starmer versus Blair. Who was the best Prime Minister? Let's have that conversation. Put Blair or Starmer in the comments box, whichever one you favour, or put neither. But it is the debate. Two Labour leaders. You could argue one made the country, the other one destroyed it. You could argue that one made the country, then destroyed it, and Starmer's destroying it more. Whatever. Let's have your opinion, please, here on the John Gaunt Show. It's the big Sunday afternoon debate. All views welcome. Of course, we'll be talking about the Jew hater, the man who wants policemen killed, the man who calls us Brits, dogs, and monkeys, the man who Starmer says he's delighted to have back in our country. I say deport the bastard and deport him now. Well, not Starmer, but you could do 2 for 1 if you want. That's what we're talking about. I spoke a lot about this man yesterday. I was well ahead of the pack, so you can listen to that podcast later if you fancy. This is the John Gaunt Show. Today, Tony Blair versus Keir Starmer. Who was the best leader, or is it neither of them? So therefore, who would you have instead? Let's have your opinion, because today we are asking a question that goes right to the heart, whether you like them or not, of modern British politics. In 1997, Tony Blair walked into Downing Street, and Britain, it did, whether you like it or not, it felt optimistic, confident, even excited about the future. Do you remember all that cool Britannia shit that they pushed out? But in 2024, when Keir Starmer walked into Downing Street, he told us everything was broken. He immediately started blaming the Tories for all his problems. He said the money was gone. I seem to remember the Tories saying that as well at one point. And he also said that expectations must be lowered. He may as well have put Mogadon into the water supply. He depressed the arse of all of us, and he's continued to do it for the last 14 months or so. I think he's useless. I think Blair ruined the country as well. But it is true to say one of them had the Midas touch. That's Blair when he first came to power. The other one, Starmer, well, he's got it in reverse. Everything he touches turns to SH1T. He's got no political nous. He's got no feeling for what the public think. Because if he did, he would not be allowing Fatah, or whatever his name is, this crazy Egyptian who calls us Brits monkeys and dogs, who says Jews should be killed. Admittedly, this was 10 years ago on Twitter, but didn't Starmer know this? Starmer put out a press release last night saying he was delighted to hear that this Egyptian was coming to live here. And the Tories don't get off scot-free because, not the Tories, Labour, they granted him citizenship in 2021. Why were we giving a citizenship to a madman like this? He hates us. It's not a matter of opinion. He's stated it. I don't want him in the country. I want him deported now, and they can take Starmer with him, and most of the Tories as well, if you fancy. So I'm asking you, though, today, the big question is, was Tony Blair Britain's last truly dominant and successful Prime Minister, especially in his first term? Is Keir Starmer proof that competence without political instinct just isn't enough? He doesn't know the touchstones. He doesn't know how to turn the British public on. And he doesn't understand the British public, does he? What's your view? I mean, you can't argue with the fact that Tony Blair got 3 consecutive landslides, 97, 2001 and 2005. No Labour PM, has ever matched this. He did transform Labour into a credible governing party after 18 long years in opposition. And Tony Blair, whether you like him or not, He dominated British politics for a decade. Blair didn't just win elections, he redefined what winning looked like for the Labour Party. So was he the most successful? Or do you think you don't want either of them? But what's the alternative? We need to have something. We've now got a man, Starmer, who is dangerous. He's allowing people to come to our country who openly state that we are pigs and monkeys, that Jews should be killed. He's openly said this, and he's not gone back on what he said on Twitter 10 years ago. We're letting him live amongst us. I thought Starmer had said he was going to protect Jewish Brits. Doesn't look like it to me. Let's go through some of Blair's domestic achievements. He introduced the minimum wage. You might have views on that. He did put a load of money into the NHS and education. Do you remember? It was education. He started that Sure Start thing. He did have a reduction in child poverty in his first term. He also said education, and school results got a bit better. He did bring in devolution, or limited form of it, for the Scottish Parliament and Welsh Assembly. You might think that's good, you might think it's bad. And he did pull off the Good Friday Agreement. Arguably, if we're being honest, the greatest peace achievement of any modern Prime Minister. Peace in Northern Ireland. Does that alone put Blair in the top tier of British Prime Ministers? Or was he not fit, or is he not fit to wipe the muck off Winston Churchill's shoes? Let's have your views. And it's also fair to say, especially when you compare our standing now and then to Starmer, did he not make us have a great global influence? He was a central figure in NATO, the EU, and in the United States. But then, of course, that kind of led to the Iraq War, which was undoubtedly his major failure. It undermined public trust. I believed him. Intelligence failures, long-term damage to faith in government forever. It was the beginning of us all thinking all prime ministers, all MPs are liars. They even call him B. Liar. What do you reckon? Let's now have the case for Starmer. It won't take very long. He took over after Brexit, and not the Brexit we all wanted. He also took over after COVID and Boris's failures and Rishi's. We had massive economic instability, and public trust was shot to you-know-what. So, if you're being fair to Starmer, you could say he had the worst starting conditions of any post-war Prime Minister. I'm trying to be fair. Starmer didn't inherit a growing economy. Some people would argue he inherited the wreckage. But it's only got worse, hasn't it? Got a view? I want to hear from you. Write your views in the comments. Starmer or Blair? And if you want to talk about this terrorist sympathizer who Starmer says is delighted that he's in our country, we'll take views on that as well. There's so much to talk about today. Make the most of it. Have your say. This is the John Gaunt podcast. We could talk about the fact that he was the former director of public prosecutions. This is Starmer. He never fails to mention it, does he? And of course, his dad was a toolmaker. Talk about economic credibility. Has he repaired our major institutions? Has he got any ideology? Because that's one of the things that people are talking about, that we don't know what he stands for. He's just like a middle manager. So after all the chaos, and there was chaos after 14 years of the Tories, is his biggest achievement that he's made British government boring again? Is there some sort of, I don't know, achievement in just being a boring old twat? Let's have your views. He also seems very cautious on military intervention, although I do think he wants to send your children to die in Ukraine. He says that he's got an emphasis on ethics, legality, and process. But then again, over the Christmas holidays, he decided, without asking Parliament, to allow this man in. This man who thinks we're pigs and monkeys. This man who hates Jews and wants to kill them. This man who has just been let out of prison in Egypt. Should we be having him in this country? And of course, we've got to say the small boats crisis has just got worse and worse and worse. He's as bad as Blair. And we know Blair started off the whole idea of just letting them all in. He wanted to rub our noses in integration and diversity. But the question is Starmer in control of it? I think Blair lost control of it, if we're absolutely honest as well. So is it fair to compare Blair with Starmer? Because to be fair, Starmer's not finished yet, has he? He hasn't finished yet. He's only 14, 16 months into it. I would say, well, that's enough. He's wrecked the country. At least with Blair, we had a whole term, the first term of his being Prime Minister, where it looked like things were getting better until he went power mad, Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the rest of it. What do you think? Do you think the boring, cautious approach of Starmer is the way forward? Or do you think he'll never be a leader? Well, I've got a hole in my underpants. Your opinion, please. So did Blair's optimism and his presentation mask serious long-term flaws? Well, I think it did, actually. Has Starmer's focus on hard choices, which is, simply translated into constant bad news and broken promises, he's had more U-turns than Jeremy Clarkson. And, ID cards are back in fashion. Well, that was a Blair idea, which he never got off the ground. Now, Starmer wants them. Is that out of desperation rather than vision? Is Starmer a serious reformer? Or is he a technocrat, a middle manager who lacks the political instincts needed to lead? Blair changed the national mood, whether we like it or not. But Starmer just reflects it. Is that fair? Let's have your opinion. Ambition versus anxiety. Optimism versus apology. Political instinct versus political tin ear. I'm trying to be fair to Blair. He did kind of get the pulse of the nation, didn't he? But I don't think Starmer's got that ability whatsoever. Let's have your opinion. Coming now to your views. Just text Blair or Starmer, or put neither. It's up to you. This is the John Gaunt podcast. It's an extra show this Sunday. I'd really like you to get involved. Starmer or Blair, or neither. Or make a comment about them. Can Starmer survive, especially after this latest political scandal where he's let in this man who calls British people dogs and monkeys? He also said that Muslims should set fire to houses and march on Downing Street. He also says policemen should be killed. He also hates Jews, although as he describes it in the usual way, Zionists. But we know what he means. Just after the slaughter of Sydney, the terrible murders in Manchester at the synagogue, what on earth would possess this Burke Starmer to let this man in? Not just that, if you read his tweets yesterday, and Yvette Cooper and Lammy, they were celebrating the fact that this arsehole has been allowed into Britain. What about his human rights? I say deport him. I say deport him now. And I say let's send Starmer with him. Can I just say a big thank you to Miss Chloe Celeste? She's just become a YouTube member. Thank you. Join YouTube if you fancy. It's the John Gaunt Show. Don't forget. And I've said thank you to her in the comments as well. Stephen Hall says, afternoon, John. Afternoon, Stephen. Let's have some comments off you, please. and let's get talking. Jackie Ward says neither. I think I'm with you, Jackie. It's got to be time for Farage now, isn't it? I like some of the things he's been saying this morning. What do you reckon? Is it Farage? Robin Gilberthorpe on YouTube says Starmer has gone completely insane. I think that's very unfair, Robin, to people who are suffering with mental illness. I really do. I'm pulling your leg. He is just completely out of touch with the British public. Why would you invite a jihadi in? Because that's what this fellow is, effectively. He might not be murdering people himself, but he's inciting people to do it. That's on top of the 40-odd thousand this year alone that Starmer has failed to stop at Dover. What I call the flip-flop warriors. Young men at fighting age. Now, these men are all over the country now. Could idiots like Fatah, whatever his name is, could he get them to rise up? Have we allowed the enemy within our gates? The barbarians, the savages are no longer at the gate. They've been let in, and not just by Labour. The Tories as well. They granted him citizenship. There's a lot to talk about. Who would you prefer to be in power? Starmer or Blair? Not many people coming out for either of them at the moment. Stephen Hall says neither of them. I'd rather have manufacture. I don't know what that means. Do you want to write that again, Robin? You are completely sick in the head, says Dean Pinder. Oh, I think he might be talking about my views on fox hunting. If you want to talk about that, you can. I've been having a bit of a Twitter spat overnight with some sixth formers, because the one thing that's in their manifesto that Labour are actually going forward on, and it's one line, they're trying to ban drag hunting. You know, where they drag a rag all over the countryside and they follow that because they banned fox hunting. Let me just tell you, when they did ban fox hunting, it was the Labour Party who said do drag hunting instead. So the hunts have been doing that. There's now accusations that actually they've used it up for cover-up to chase those rats with tails, foxes. Drop your little Basil Fawlty concerns. Not Basil Fawlty, yeah, what's his name? Basil Brush concerns. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Chasing John Cleese across the countryside. And so I just talked about that yesterday on Twitter, and I've done it again today. And I've had loads of people saying, you're promoting the savage ripping to death of foxes. I was doing nothing of the kind, because I was saying there is no need to ban drag hunting, because that is just a sixth form attack on privilege or on the upper classes. I think it's pathetic, absolutely pathetic. But I tell you what, the lefties have got really wound up and become extremely abusive, because they just can't handle being triggered. They love dishing it out, but they can't take it. So Dean Pinder, he says you are completely sick in the head. He's probably one of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Crikey, John, what a choice, says Chloe Celeste. Neither, but if my life depended on it, Blair. Do you know what? I think you're bang on the money there. I think you are bang on the money. That if it was a life or death choice, you'd rather have Blair leading you than Starmer. You're in the trenches. The whistle goes. Over the top goes the leader. Would you follow Blair? You might. Would you follow Starmer? No chance. No chance whatsoever. Dean Pinder, he's back again. You are the downfall of our society. Grow up, child. Jake Morton Brown, I'd say Blair, but to be honest, John, I was 9 years old, so I had no idea. I personally can't remember having a decent prime minister since I ever got the vote. Politicians are like nappies. They need to be changed often, and for the same reason. Yes, they're full of, I'm with you, Jake. Nice line. I might nick that from you. Robin Gilberthorpe says, I'd rather have Maggie Thatcher back than Tony Blair. Hold on a minute. He's not on the slate. Most people, I think, if I'd said Maggie, Winston Churchill, Blair or Starmer, would have gone for Winston Churchill or Maggie. But that's not on the slate. It's a choice between Starmer or Blair or neither. Thank you. Blair brought in Benefits Britain and colossal welfare dependency, and it never went away. I can't really argue with that. Thank you for your comments. Let's move on. Let's go to Blair needs to be investigated over the death of Dr. David Kelly. And Starmer is a total can't. I think you've spelt that word wrong. There's no A in the word you're thinking of. But thank you, Lena Tail 7251 on YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, please press the like button. And you've got 4 so far. We normally get a lot more than that. If you're enjoying it, press the like button. If you'd like to donate, there's 2 ways you can do it. Well, several ways. But the 2 main ways are, one, you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. Donate anything from $5 upwards. It all helps to keep these going and all the extra shows. Or alternatively, you can simply press that little $ by the sides of the comments and you can donate on YouTube as little or as much as you want. Let me just reassure you what happens here. We're getting a little bit of money from advertising now because we've had, 2 million views. We've got 6,500 subscribers. All of that helps, but it's a trickle. The thing that really keeps these going are your donations. You don't have to donate. It's not the BBC. You won't be sent to prison if you don't pay, but it's kind of fair, isn't it, to chuck something in the hat? So if you like what I'm doing, shove a $5 in if you fancy, or more, whatever you want to do, just by pressing ticking, you know what I mean, on the $. Alternatively, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. The David Kelly thing, some people hold things forever, don't they? I think you just need to we've got to move on, even if we think that. I didn't like the David Kelly thing either. Blair was awful, but Starmer is dangerous, says Fluker Tony, one of my regular callers. Thank you very much. Contributors, I should say. Thank you for your comments. Jackie Aldridge has just sent me a tenner on YouTube, $9.99 on a super sticker by just clicking that $. Thank you very much indeed. Your name will come up on the screen in a minute. Citizenship granted under Tories, and now they're whining. They're hypocrites, says Chloe on YouTube. Chloe, I agree 100% with you. 100%. You are right. The Tories, they are total hypocrites. They granted this Egyptian citizenship. So now he's bleating, saying I'm a British citizen. I put up a tweet, I forwarded somebody else's tweet earlier, where it has a list of all your MPs who wanted this person, this man who wants to kill Jews, this man who calls for the slaughter of British police officers, for the burning down of our houses, and also this man on Twitter, in his own words, who wants this country effectively destroyed. There's a whole list of MPs. Honestly, it'll ruin your Sunday. It'll ruin your Sunday. Taxi driver. Good afternoon, John. Hope you're well and had a good Christmas. I did. I had a brilliant Christmas. Stephen Hall says Starmer is always out of the country. Absolutely correct. No, Tony Blair wasn't a brilliant prime minister. That was Winston Churchill, John, and Maggie Thatcher. There were two. They were the two brilliant prime ministers in history. Tony Blair was a monster, and Starmer is just nuts, says Robin Gilbert Thorpe on YouTube. You're not. I don't know how old you are, Robin, but you're not completely correct in that, because whether you like it or not, Tony Blair brought a sense of optimism, the cool Britannia stuff, when he first came to power. Unfortunately, he also brought his wife and all the human rights lawyers and all that guff. But if we're being fair, the first term in office, he did achieve a lot. What did Starmer achieve? I'll tell you what, jack shit. Only 6 likes. I must be doing something wrong today. Normally up to 20 by now. If you like what I'm saying, if you like the show, just press the like button. Thank you very much indeed. Donations are beginning to come in, so thank you for that. If you can donate a few bob, that will really help. Stephen Hall's made a good point on YouTube. He says it just shows what Starmer thinks of us. You're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right there. It does, Stephen, because he's allowed somebody to come into our country. Don't forget, though, the Tories gave this man British citizenship in 2001. Why? He made the 2021, I think they gave it him. Sorry, I got that wrong. But these things that he wrote were back 10 or 15 years ago. They were already on the record. The man is a fascist. The man has no place in British society. How can we trust that Starmer and the other politicians really want to protect us? I don't think they do. Chloe says, I never believed Blair wanted to be unalived. Unalived? I don't know what that means. But Starmer with his sister, But Starmer with his assisted dying, changes to abortion legislation and migrants first policy, I fear for the future. That is a good point in there. I agree with you, Chloe. I think Stammer has been smoking too much weed. Well, yeah, the only problem is that would make him interesting, wouldn't it? And he's certainly not interesting. He's boring as he wrecks and dismantles our great country. So is it Starmer? Is it Blair? Is it neither? How are we going to get out of this mess? And this thing that I'm telling you about, this man who they let in overnight, again, when the Commons aren't sitting, it's a disgrace. Starmer has no respect for British politics, the Commons, other MPs, and more importantly, no respect for you. Kim Krasniki says Blair saved the life of so many Albanians in Sardinia, in Kosovo. Thank you. Tell us a bit more about that if you can. Taxi driver, I drove a lady to Bristol Airport yesterday, and she didn't even know who Keir Starmer was. Unbelievable. She was from Cyprus. Here's an interesting one. Stephen says Boris was one of the worst Tory MPs. We all thought he was the big bright hope, didn't we? But yeah, looking back on it now, he was a complete and utter jerk. So I'm with you on that. Where are we going next? Sharon Walker. None of them. We need someone who can bring us back to prosperity by lowering taxes and VAT so that people can live better than we have done. Yeah, what we actually need, Sharon, is somebody with vision. I don't care whether they're left or right. We've got nobody who's got a big idea, have we? And really, this debate today that I've been having overnight about fox hunting, you might want to join in on it. Let me make it clear. I was against the ban on fox hunting, but I'm a Democrat, so I understand we've accepted it's banned. But this attack now on drag hunting is ludicrous. It's just because the sixth formers who are running our country think anybody who can afford a horse must be upper class. What they don't understand is all the hundreds of thousands of people who are involved in the countryside. They don't understand the countryside. I had a bloke today from Ipswich, who, by the way, we're going to tan their asses tomorrow at the football, telling me that I know nothing about the countryside because I'm from Coventry. So I put him down by saying, well, I've lived in the countryside in Northamptonshire and Warwickshire and indeed in Buckinghamshire for the best part of 30 odd years. So I actually do. And in the village I lived in, it was a hunting village. So I do understand it. I also understand much more than he ever will do, eating his carrots in some godforsaken shithole called Ipswich, than he will ever understand about rural life and the poverty that is there in the countryside. I lived 2 doors down from a guy, two brothers live with their mum, who, I said this yesterday, who basically earned their living via the hunt by repairing the hedgerows and the rest of it. Many people are like that. It isn't all just knobs. Anyway, let's move on. Wait, isn't Starmer's wife a Jew? Says Robin. Yeah, he's got some explaining to do. She is. You're correct. Blade made sure he made plenty out of it. Remember, he used public money for his own business deal. Did he? Are you sure? Well, they all do well out of it, don't they? Even Liz Truss, she's got a pension for life. She was only in it the Prime Minister for as long as a lettuce survived. Yeah? Are you with me? Bring back Theresa May, some nutcase is saying here, and give her a second chance. You must be kidding, Sharon. She was useless as well. Come on. Denise Deacon, celebrating this vile man's release goes to show that Starmer really does hate us, says Denise Deacon. And he doesn't give a shit about Jews. Blair was a better leader than Starmer, as in charisma, but he's been proved to be a war-mongering liar. Well, it's very hard to argue with that. Thank you, Denise, for your contribution today. Russell Marriott, they're both winkers. Thank you very much. Oh, you spelt that with an A, not an I. Okay, fair enough. I think I understand what you mean. Nick Hogan, good old friend of mine. I disliked Blair from the start. However, he did have a plan and was competent, unlike the tosser who resides in number 10 today. Nick, thank you for putting into words what I've been struggling with in this debate. When I say who's the best, it is that complicated. You're right. Blair came into power and it was Brave New World time, wasn't it? He did have a plan. We might not have... Well, I actually voted for him, if I'm honest, that first term. I did. He did have a plan. He was a man with a plan where it's clear that this bunch had no plan whatsoever. So they got themselves into power mainly because people wouldn't vote for the Tories after 14 years, and you can't blame them. But he's only in power by name. It's a very shallow, I know it's a massive majority in terms of numbers, but that's because of our ridiculous first past the post system. But we all know he's going to get his arse tanned by Nigel Farage and Reform, don't we? He's finished. But he hasn't got a plan. Like this, today they said, a lot of these people are having a go at me about fox hunting. Hold on a minute. Because I said, well, when did we have a vote on that? So then they all started saying 2024, the general election. And then so I looked at the manifesto. It's one line that they're going to ban drag hunting or what trail hunting. One line. And I said, oh, okay, then. So they've done one thing in their manifesto. What about all the things they haven't done? The winter fuel tax, where they tried to screw the pensioners. The inheritance tax for farmers, not in the manifesto. The green bullshit. It's all there. They're just liars. Starmer had no plan. Nick Hogan, you can give out the crayons at the next lesson because you have hit the nail on the head. Florimon says, who's the best? Is this a joke? Thank you very much indeed. Blair opened up the floodgates from Eastern Europe. Starmer has opened up the floodgates from the third world shitholes. Hard to argue with that. Thank you, Lee. Mick in Frinton-on-Sea. We've got 7 likes. We're really slow on the likes today. If you're watching on YouTube, press the like button. It helps the algorithm. And if you really want to help me, please join or subscribe to John Gaunt TV on YouTube. You just go there. The first time you get there, there'll be a little pop-up. It says, do you want to subscribe? Don't worry. It doesn't cost a penny to subscribe. Just subscribe. Because then you'll be told every time I'm doing an extra broadcast like this one today and like the one I did yesterday, which I thought was really good, to be honest, but then I wouldn't I? If you haven't watched that one yet or listened to it, make sure you do. And don't forget, these podcasts are now on video, so you can watch live on Twitter, X, Facebook, but you can also watch it on YouTube and then you can go back and watch it again. Or you can then listen to the podcast version, same words, no pictures, when you're walking your dog. And I know a lot of people do that. So thank you for it. And thank you for making it so successful. From a very small beginnings, we've now got 2.2 million views of the videos. We just now need to make a few bob if we can. Mick says Blair had a good 5 to 6 years, a good economy, low inflation, low interest rates. Starmer had a good 5 or 6 weeks. He's giving Nigel Farage the keys to number 10 Downing Street. I can't argue with you, Mick. Thank you for your comments. Kim Krasnicki says, I hate socialism and anything to do with Labour, but I can never underestimate the intelligence of Tony Blair. Maybe that was the difference. Was it because they're both lawyers, but it's also because I think Blair had charisma, whereas this desk has got more charisma than bloody Starmer will ever have. It's also as if he's hiding something, isn't it? I don't know what. Don't give me an answer to that. Sharon Walker says Maggie Thatcher. Krasnicki says Maggie was clever. Very true. Chloe says socialism is the politics of envy. Well, that's absolutely true. And this whole fox hunting debate is all about that. Starmer could never be as intelligent as Tony Blair is. Stephen says cold today, folks. What are you? Somehow the unofficial weather forecasters. Jackie Aldridge, I mentioned her earlier. She sent a super sticker. That's £10. It comes up as $9.99. She must have paid for it on an Apple device, so it's always a few pennies less. But thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much for that donation. We could do with a few more. £10 would be lovely. But if you can only afford a couple of quid, just give us a couple of quid. I don't want to skin you straight after Christmas. But we rely on donations. Patriot Dan says, well done, Jackie. Thank you very much indeed for your comment. Martin Harty says, both of them are, I wondered when this would come up. Both of them are Fabian Society members and they prefer working for foreign masters. I am coming round more and more to that argument. I do understand where you're coming from. King Henry VIII would have had Starmer's head on the block by now, and others, if you know what I mean. I do. Right, where we go next? Neither. Blair is a globalist, and I think that is why Starmer is allowing all these boat warriors into our country. I couldn't believe Starmer could get any worse, but allowing this terrorist in is just simply unbelievable. There's no evidence that he's a terrorist, to be fair, Pamela, but he's obviously a man who can incite idiots to terror attacks. I just think it's disgraceful. Stephen makes a good point, which is the Tories have no credibility either on immigration. No, they don't. It's the whole political class. They don't seem to give a shit about the people in the country already. And that includes immigrants who have come in before. It seems that the flip-flop warriors come first. Fluker Tony, thank you so much. Look at that. He's just donated a tenner. I really appreciate that. Listen, you don't have to donate 10. You could donate 2 quid, £5, whatever you fancy. Last week I had people putting in 100 quid a time. It really doesn't matter. Put in as much as you can afford, not money you can't afford, right? I'm not the BBC, but I do rely on your donations. So Fluker Tony, thank you very much indeed. I wonder if a few more will join you. Here's one. Blair and Starmer are nuts, but Reeves is totally crackers. Thank you very much. Kim, I'm not going to read out any more of yours, if you don't mind, because you're tending to dominate, and we've got to share out the comments to other people. So why don't you just watch and listen for the moment? We can't really have every other comment being you, if that's all right with you. Okay? Thank you very much indeed. My grandson likes Liz Truss, but then he is only 10 years old, says Taxi Driver. Thank you. What's the next one we got here? John, you'd be good on GB News. Yeah, I would be, but you've got to be asked to be on there. I'm not being asked. There we are. And it goes on to say, John, I can see you alongside Anne Diamond. Oh, my God. Thank you for no disrespect to Anne, but I couldn't. They'd probably make me have a shave as well. So I don't know about that. I wouldn't be surprised if Blair has the remote control to Android Starmer. I'm sure Blair is really in charge. That's a very good point, Jackie. A very good point indeed. I tell you what, tonight I'm seeing a very old friend, Pez. He lives in Glasgow now. I'll tell you more tales about him another day, but he was basically my best mate since the age of about 4. My mum and his mum, I think, at one point worked together in what used to be called a supermarket. Do you remember George Mason? It became Fine Fair in Jubilee Crescent in Coventry. But me and Perry go back a long way. Perry is a brilliant actor. I mean, just brilliant. Got real charisma. But unfortunately got diverted into stage management and eventually ended up supplying guns and stuff like that for programs like Taggart up in Scotland. And that's where he lives. But he's done well. He's done well for himself. A lot better than me, that's for sure. So he can buy the beers tonight. But he was poorly last year. And so this is the first time I've seen him since he was unwell. But it's weird, isn't it? You get to this age and your mates are dropping dead left, right, and centre. I just don't want to be me next. I had another mate, Dave, who I told you about the other week, who had a cancer scare. Perfectly okay now. But I'm losing too many mates. Age. Don't forget, it was Blair who gave the IRA get out of jail letters, says David Katie. I accept that, but then we did need peace. Did we not? I don't like what's happening with the SAS at the moment, I've got to tell you. But without people making those concessions, it wouldn't have happened. It would still be having people blown up. So I think when Blair was PM, Blair was PM. Now Starmer is PM, Blair is the PM. That's a great line, Carl. Thank you very, very much indeed. Right, I'm going to finish in a minute because you've had 41 minutes of my time, nearly 42 minutes. I've got things to do today. I'm going to do a bit of writing this afternoon, I think. Thank you for joining me. Remember what I said. The best way to help is to get on to John Gaunt TV on YouTube and make sure you subscribe. That just means join it. You don't have to pay any money. If you want to help me, that makes the algorithm, the more people who subscribe, the algorithm helps us. Yeah? Helps get more numbers. It's weird the way YouTube works. But don't forget, I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and indeed on, what's the other one I'm on? Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called, and YouTube. If you want to donate, which helps as well, of course, please press that little $sign and send me a super sticker or whatever it's called on YouTube. £2, £5, £10, whatever you can afford, please. Or go to no, that's too many W's. www.buymeacoffee, all one word, .com/John Gaunt, and then you can donate in multiples of a £5, and you can either donate a coffee or a beer. They don't exist. It's just the gimmick to get you to donate. Tell all your friends that I'm back and I'm doing these shows, and I'm particularly proud of them. The show I did yesterday, try and have a listen to that or watch of that as well, because it's a cracker. All about this Egyptian. He's not British. He's an Egyptian. He's got dual nationality. Boot him out. Sorry, I got hiccups again. Boot him out, I say. Are you with me or against me? And if you want to continue the conversation, I'm not saying straight away, but go to YouTube, John Gaunt TV, YouTube, and there's a comment section on all the videos. Write a comment up there and I'll answer it. I don't have time. I had to explain to someone today. I don't always have time to do more than just put lol or agreed, because I'm getting thousands of comments, which is great because it shows that the show is being successful. All right. Leanne Teal says, please do a show with Tommy Robinson. I've interviewed him many times. I don't know what I'll talk to him about at the moment. Anyway. What's this say? Jackie Ward has given me my 3 red hearts, which is always the symbol for me to go. Thank you very much. Don't forget, tomorrow the Sky Blues are playing, so the show won't be at 6 o'clock. I'll let you know during the day on John Gaunt TV when it will be, and on Twitter and on Facebook. It'll be earlier in the day, or it'll be a pre-record, because tomorrow night we've got to hammer those carrot crunchers down in Ipswich. Yeah? We used to always beat them at Speedway. Now we've got to beat them in the football. And Coventry, well, we're going to get promoted, aren't we? It's incredible. I've got to go now. However, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, don't forget to keep telling them you love them. And I'll see you tomorrow sometime. All the best. Thanks for joining in. Bye.